one of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on. And he'd say, boss, we got this and that and the other thing. And I'd look at him and I'd say, good. And finally, one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem. And he said, I already know what you're going to say. And I said, well, what am I going to say? He said, you're going to say good. He said, that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good. And I said, well, yeah. When things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out. Don't get startled. Don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well then hell, you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
What's up, Waste No Day fans? Welcome to another great show, and boy, we are proud and excited to do this one. Jocko is here, and we are going to be talking to him about getting real with your life and making more of it. It's going to be awesome. If you're not familiar with him, it's hard to believe that's even possible, but he is going to rock your world. This dude is all heart, all business, and all making sure that you are getting better in every area of your life. And we are so thrilled to bring him on the show today and to share him with you. It's going to be a great time, and we are looking forward to it. Before we do, though, for some reason, the two of us are going to talk before we just get to Jocko. I don't know why we didn't even do this, but let's just get to Jocko. Yeah. Nobody wants to listen to this intro here.
Let's save people a fast forwarding and just move right to it.
Well, who do you got us queued up for on the quote machine, Brian?
Most of us aren't defeated in one decisive battle. We are defeated one tiny, seemingly insignificant surrender at a time that chips away at who we are and who we should really be. Jocko Willink.
I knew it.
Obviously.
Death by 1,000 cuts. Got it.
Yeah. One tiny, insignificant surrender at a time.
Emphasis on that word, of course.
Yeah, surrender, not battle, but surrender at a time. And that's what we talk about all this. This is Waste No Day. So where do we start? Where should we start on every episode? Is when we wake up. One surrender at a time. I don't believe there are many people listening who don't wish they were getting up a little bit earlier. I don't. If I wake up at 3:40, I'm like, I want that 5 minutes of sleep back. I'm like pissed. And I beat my alarm quite a bit. And every time I do, I'm like, ugh. Like, I could use it. I'm getting like 5.5 hours.
Brian. Let me help. Woke up earlier than your alarm? Good.
Good. You'll be more tired tonight. Good. But when that thing goes off, it's time to get up. It's time to get up at the time that you set the day before that this is when I'm getting up. And I'll say this, it's time to figure out what time you get up. Dude, the amount of people that still straggle into the shop with one eye open and like bedhead because they're waking up with a minute to spare to get in there to the meeting on time. Despite all of the most successful people that have ever been on the show, that have ever graced us with their presence for Wiser Wednesday, everyone has one thing in common. They get up in the morning, they go work out. They get up and work out in the morning before they start their day. But everybody else has the cheat code. They're going to do it without that part. It's crazy. I want to respect you. I do. Which make it really difficult when that's your MO. And I'm just like, okay, it's going to be a mediocre day for you. I can see. That's great. That's the plan. Awesome.
Yeah, challenging start off to the podcast here. And there's not going to be any less of that when we get to Jocko, man, because this dude isn't about wasting days, hours, or minutes. I mean, he is serious about getting things done. And he's already gotten so much done in his past and his history. And what you're talking about there, Brian, is that those little defeats, which at the time don't feel big. And what's discouraging about that, as you think through it, is that, you know, one defeat here, one defeat there, not a big deal, but you get into that pattern of accepting surrender where, you know, hey, listen, you're not going to win every battle. We get that. But when you start patterning succession or, you know, just giving up into your life, even in small ways, you're training your brain to go after that first. It's like how can we get out of this? What do we have to do to make this pain go away? What do we have to do to make this easier? You know, you're training your brain to think like that. It's the first reaction. You know, I was just having a conversation with my son tonight. I'm like, listen, man, you know, if you eat an apple and it takes you 20 bites to eat the apple and 19 of those bites were delicious and one of the bites was sour, was that a good apple? You know, and he's struggling right now with seeing the good in sometimes bad scenarios. And I'm telling him that, you know, what you train your brain to do is what your brain is going to get really good at. So start focusing on those good and positive things, even on the bad days, even it was tough, even when it was difficult. Focus on the good things and power through on that. And that's the opposite of accepting defeat and surrendering. You're actually purposing yourself to do something that's, well, for sure countercultural, but also perhaps even counterintuitive to what humanity generally does. We generally look for the bad. But I do believe that is a muscle that can be developed. And that is one, to look for the good, to be focusing on the best, and to be refusing to accept defeat as a first or second option, to always be looking for a new way to win, a new way to succeed, and a new way to overcome. Jocko's a guy that demonstrates that day in and day out. It's going to be great. You know what else is going to be great, Brian? The time when we take a little bit of the podcast to demonstrate one of our great reviewers and somebody who's taken the time to do that for us. We appreciate that. Of course, all those of you who've already done it, but we're going to highlight somebody special today. Who do we have, Brian?
It's not about having the right, and then Apple cuts it off. We've said it once or twice before. You get about 6 words in the title of your Apple review, and then Apple just adds 3 periods. That's all we get to hear of the
Dang
title.
ellipses.
But there is plenty in the review. 5 stars. Episode 198. What an episode. Brian spoke from my soul with a better radio voice. I committed to podcasts or audiobooks 5 years ago, and I will absolutely second the fact that when listening to music, while being an energy creator at moments, is certainly statistically, for me, the most unproductive times in my personal life. It's amazing how people react when you throw out some life quotes or positive thoughts to a random person you see. You're often looked at as a crazy person, likely because they have rarely, if ever, had someone tell them something great about themselves. Jordan Peterson goes in depth about that concept so well. What a pot of gold those that are in your life have and maybe don't truly realize. I've heard all I need to support all you do, brother. Anything you need in PNW, is that Pacific Northwest?
I don't know.
I'll happily help in any way possible. Keep up the greatness, boys. Wes Munns Mechanical LLC.
Wow, fantastic, man! That was a lengthy review.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say he just compared us to Jordan Peterson, bro.
Well, he said you had a great radio voice. So I'm not sure we can use his perspective.
I was gonna add in there than Nate Minnick's radio voice. I was gonna add that ER.
Yeah, well, Matt, appreciate the paragraphs. Like that was a book. It's great.
Yeah, man, that took a lot to write. And the episode 198 that he mentioned was the June 3rd, 2024 episode called "How to Become Objection Proof." An objection proof. Well, go ahead and listen to the episode. It's a good episode. It's not. I don't know. There's no guest, so Nate and I obviously consider it one of our worst because we had to talk the whole time. But it's a solid episode, and more than anything, it's just about being really enthusiastic and not losing enthusiasm throughout the day as you're taking a beating and getting rejection, and just realizing, shutting yourself out from the negativity and realizing they're saying no to your offer, not no to you as a person. Whatever you have to do to just keep rolling with those punches without losing enthusiasm. So solid episode 198, June 3rd. Appreciate you, Wes. That was a long review. You really put a lot of thought and effort into that, and we really appreciate it, man. It goes a long way for us to want to break off from our families in the evening like this. For Nate right now, it's 10 o'clock at night as we're recording this. For me, it's 8 o'clock at night, but feels like 10 because I go to bed very early. So it is these reviews and people that contact us that make us go, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Now, of course, when Jocko Willink's coming on the show, we're going to make that happen. we're never that tired. And I was going to say, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about how we got Jocko on this show, because at this point, he is the person that we have worked the longest to get on. Now, like Brian Tracy came on the show 3 years, right? And we've had many people that took a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort to get on because we don't have a budget. Right? So we don't have income for this show. We won't read commercials. We don't take on sponsors. So it's just, we're not paying people to come on the show. We can't afford Jocko. So we had to take another route. And that route was, I first contacted Echelon Front, the group, several times back in the day. And I don't even think I was getting a response early on. But, me being me and learning to be objection proof, I changed my email address for certain people that I was trying to get a hold of.
JockoFanboy@gmail.com.
Yep. So I would email everybody once a week. And then at about a month to 6 weeks, I would create a new Gmail email address in case I got blocked. And I would just go back to sending once a week from the new address. And then 4 to 6 weeks later, I'd do it again. And when Echelon Front got a hold of me, they said, Jocko's unavailable, which I'm used to that because we're a little home services show, especially almost 4 years ago now. And that's what everybody said. Hey, so-and-so's really busy. He doesn't have a lot of time and he's going to have to pass on this one. But hey, we really appreciate you reaching out. Now that's a step up because most of the time people don't even answer. They get these all the time. So when they answered, I just jotted down the person's name and, hey, thank you so much. And do you have anyone from Echelon Front who might want to come on the show? Well, yeah. And we ended up getting Carlos Mendez, Los, as Jocko calls him, and JP Donnell at separate times, who were both snipers for Jocko on Jocko's SEAL team in Ramadi.
Awesome podcast, by the way. Both of them.
Both amazing podcasts, yeah. Carlos Mendez and JP Donnell. And they're both trainers at Echelon Front. And they're solid, amazing guys that each put on an amazing episode. And after I got them booked, I reached out to the booking person and sent them a nice handwritten thank you note and a Starbucks gift card just to say an extra thank you for getting them on the show. And I kept those relationships going. Carlos in particular, Los, he and I just established, we kind of hit it off right from the beginning, and we just stay in touch. I recommend people to him when they're looking for leadership training. I say, what's the greatest group doing leadership training? I firmly believe this, Echelon Front. Who do I know at Echelon Front? Well, now Jocko. Quote unquote, no. At that time, I mean, it's been Carlos. So I just say, get a hold of Los. Do yourself a favor, get a hold of Los. I would absolutely love for that guy to have trained me when I was getting into leadership. I would have killed to make that happen. So year after year, I keep doing what I can to get him on. I'm now trying to leverage, maybe Los a little bit and JP. And I'm like, anything we can do. And I got the name of Jocko's assistant and using that to my advantage, going nowhere. It's just it's a hard no. It's like there's a significant cost associated with getting them on the show unless you meet certain criteria in terms of the size of your show. So you're going through layers of people. You're not just having a conversation with Jocko. Well, lo and behold, Tommy Mello's Freedom event is right around the corner in San Diego. And who is his keynote speaker going to be?
Mm-hmm.
None other than Jocko Willink. So I organized it so that I could meet Jocko, and you get a matter of seconds. Like when you go to these things and meet these people, you walk up, you shake hands. Thank you so much for your service to this country, for not even just in the military, but what the Echelon Front and his podcast does for men, leaders, fathers. I'm like always blown away by the amount of wisdom that he gives on that show, just the show, for free, all day, every day. I mean, these episodes are like 3-4 hours long. And it's amazing stuff. And I'm like, I got to do that. But I also need to take this opportunity, right, to try to get Jocko on this show. It's almost 4 years coming now. So 2 nights before, I'm pretty nervous. I'm standing in the hotel mirror and I'm writing a script. And I do mean just writing a script out. And my wife hears me saying it out loud and me practicing a script or a presentation in the mirror. I mean, I've been doing this since I was selling plumbing in 2004, so it's nothing new to her. But she hears what I'm saying and she's like, "Is that for Jocko?" I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Take this out. It sounds a little desperate. Put this in there. Maybe a little more of this." I'm like, cool. She's right. So I rewrite the script. I rehearse it with her once or twice. And then the morning of, it's 7 a.m. when we're going to be in that room and I'm going to meet him. And I'm walking through the hallway and people are like, "Hey, Waste No Day," like waving. And this is a home services convention, so that people know me at these things. And I'm like head down, staring at the carpet, looking like some prima donna actor that's like doesn't talk to fans. It's like, you guys don't understand. Like I have this script memorized. Like I killed the script. I had it word for word. I did it so many times over 2 days, but I'm like nervous, man. I'm like walking head down straight to that room. And there's a little bit of a line, a few people ahead of me. And then people are kind of talking to each other inside this room. And I'm just staring at my wife. Like I don't want to get out of this zone that I'm in with this script on my tongue. And I just walked up, I shook his hand. I thanked him for everything he does. And I said, I used a little bit of Chris Voss's stuff in there, some Never Split the Difference stuff. And I said, "You're probably going to hate me for this." But I have a skilled trades home services show. We don't do commercials. We don't do sponsors. We don't make any money off the show. So I don't have any money to pay you. Instagram is the big thing. Apparently, I wasn't aware of this. I don't do anything with our Instagram page. But I'm like, I don't have much for Instagram followers. I'm not really going to help you build your audience. But I believe that you could have a massive impact on a lot of people in the home services and skilled trades that could just use your brand of leadership and ownership and just, that accountability that he preaches. And we have a major, like everybody talks about the talent gap, skilled trades gap, skilled labor gap, not a whole lot of talk of leadership gap. in the trades. But that's the big one. It's much bigger there. There are so few people that can do what my mentor did, which is take a punk like me, gangbanger, drug dealer, drug addict, just loser, and mold him into something. Because one, you don't have the patience because you haven't learned that level of patience to deal with someone like that. Two, you don't have the skill. We can't see past ourselves far enough to be a leader of someone else. And everything that Jocko wrote in Extreme Ownership and talks about on the show, and all of his books, even his children's books, it's all ownership. It's all accountability. And it's all your ego is your enemy. Like, leave the ego out and be a leader of people. Well, the drought of that in the skilled trades is the biggest thing we're missing. Like, everything else would fall in line if we created and molded and started really spitting out leaders in the industry. And I think, as I told him, you and Echelon Front can do that. Would it be a ridiculous idea to ask you to come on the show? And I swear he just nodded for a second, and it was like he looked at my shoes to think, and I was just like, oh man, my lace is probably crooked. He's gonna make me do push-ups or something. Like, please don't make me do push-ups in front of everybody. And he just looked back up and cracked a little smile, and he said, let's do it. Oh, you know what? I did mention too. I said, like, I've had JP and Los on. I still chat with those guys from time to time. Like, hey, we're cool, bro. We're cool. And he just looked up, nodded, and said, let's do the show. And now, if anybody who's been in selling for a while, and including this, like Mel Robbins, she wrote the 5-second rule. I actually got a hold of her on LinkedIn, herself, through some channels, got a hold of her. I said, look, for various reasons, the book I find to just be absolutely amazing, and various other reasons, I would love to have you on this show. And she said, wow, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do it. I said, all right, how do we schedule? And she said, just send me some days and times. This is probably 2 years ago. I said, okay, here's some days, here's some times. Let me know what works. If none of these work, we'll keep fishing. And she just never got back to me. So like a week or two later, I sent a message and it got read and no answer. And then I sent another one a few days later. I'll never stop. Like, we'll just keep going. Like, I'm not going to meet you. I don't care. Like, I'm embarrassed. Yeah, I do this to Jocko Willink. Like, what? Taking my life into my own hands. Like, I'm not going to do this to the
Jocko fanboy number 25 at gmail.com.
Oh yeah. So many emails. But eventually the messages just stopped getting read. And I was just like, oh, okay. Well, you just lied and ghosted me. Cool. Well, I'm in sales my whole life, and now I train salespeople. And like, I know that, be it buyer's remorse or just like, I meant it at the time and now things are different. It's just, I'm too busy or whatever. I understand that. But I also know that cognitive dissonance is a real thing. So what I did after he said, let's do the show, I stuck my hand out again. I said, so I can count on you to do the show.
That's amazing.
And, most people will just go like, yeah, you can count on it. He saw it for what it was. And he gave me like kind of almost a sarcastic smile and nod. And he shook my hand. He goes, yeah, I said I'd do it. I was like, oh, crap. Like, I didn't want to, he's not in selling. So I didn't know if he knew where, what that was. I mean, he knew what it was. I'm not sure he liked it, but he was just so cool. He wasn't bothered at all. Super cool. And even if I had just met him there, that would have been enough, like just to be able to thank a person like that in person who has such an impact on our community. Like, people who know and love Jocko and have read Extreme Ownership have had their lives changed by it. And we're in a community in the trades that needs that stuff. So just to thank him would have been enough. But he just agreed to come on the show. And then Jack, his guy, freaking emailed me, or I shot him an email the next day with a picture of me and Jocko standing next to each other. And I CC'd Los in it and Andrea. These two they're just all awesome people at Echelon Front. I CC'd everybody in it. And I'm like, hey, FYI, Jocko said, let's go ahead and book the episode. Like, I didn't even know how to say it, I'm just like, whatever, just say it. And let me know when's a good time. And he just got back and said, how about this day and time? And it was like 5 weeks later. I was like, what? Like, when you get these people like that, you expect it to be like 3-4 months. That's very typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we get the bigger names on, it's stretched out. Like, we always feel like, oh man, if it even happens, because it's so far out, But yeah, this one happened. And they didn't. I sent them email invites to Jocko and Jack's emails, and they didn't accept the email invites for like a week. No, it was longer than that, because it was just like last week, wasn't it? I texted you. I texted, they accepted the email advice. Coming on the show. Woohoo. I sent them like a screenshot, accepted by Jack, accepted by Jocko. Like, woohoo. So yeah, and here we are. Maybe we made it. Jocko's sitting out in the waiting room of our studio right now.
Yes, sir. Well, I got to give all the credit to you, Brian. An incredible job. For those of you who don't know, it's probably no surprise, but Brian is not only the co-host of the show, but also the booking agent of the show. And he works super hard to get these amazing guests on. And Brian, well, you had no business fishing in this lake and hooking this fish, but well done. Thank you for the privilege that it's going to be to interview Jocko. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I agree 100%. Going to be an absolute privilege and an absolute honor. I'm going to try not to fanboy out too hard, because he doesn't really like that. He doesn't like people gushing on him, and I don't either, but I still want to do it badly and give him the credit he deserves 100%. So I'm just going to call my shot on the next one, who I'm working on now, Jordan Peterson.
Okay. Oh, well, we already received the review that we're basically on the same playing ground. So, yeah. It's no big deal. He'd be lucky to book with us at this point.
That's one. For 4 years, I've been sending different emails. Now, I've never really tried like I did with Jocko and Chris Voss and some of the other people, where I'm starting to figure out new avenues. I'm going to do that now because, Jocko's done. But I've been emailing the whole time. I've never even been told no. Someone on Jordan's team.
Ghosted before you even started.
Yeah, they've never even answered. And now at this point, they're like, I see who it is. Don't even answer. It's just a new email. Just delete it.
Well, I appreciate all your efforts, buddy, in making those inroads, and specifically in this one. We are super excited and proud and honored to have Jocko Willink sit in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Jocko Willink. He is a decorated, retired Navy SEAL officer, author of the best-selling books Extreme Ownership, Leadership Strategies and Tactics, and Discipline Equals Freedom, as well as co-author of The Dichotomy of Leadership. Jocko is the co-founder of Echelon Front, where he is a leadership instructor, speaker, and executive coach. Jocko spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy SEALs team, starting as an enlisted SEAL and rising through the ranks to become a SEAL officer. As commander of SEAL Team 3's Task Unit Bruiser during the Battle of Ramadi, he orchestrated SEAL operations that helped the Ready First Brigade of the U.S. Army's 1st Armored Division bring stability to the violent, war-torn city. Task Unit Bruiser became the most highly decorated special operations unit of the Iraq War. Jocko returned from Iraq to serve as officer in charge of training for all West Coast SEAL teams. There, he spearheaded the development of leadership training and personally instructed and mentored the next generation of SEAL leaders who have continued to perform with great success on the battlefield. During his career, Jocko was awarded the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and numerous other personal and unit awards. In 2010, Jocko retired from the Navy and launched Echelon Front with Leif Babin, where he teaches the leadership principles he learned on the battlefield to help others lead and win. Clients include individuals, teams, companies, and organizations across a wide range of industries and fields. And now, technically, pro bono, you are one of his clients, and we are very excited to put him in your passenger seat. Welcome here, Jocko.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming on. It's great to see you again. It was just a dream come true for me personally to meet you at Tommy Mello's Freedom event. Had a quick conversation with you, although it's been about 3.5 years, almost 4 years of conversations with your team trying to get you on the Waste No Day podcast. And like I said, as far as our audience goes, I think you can have a massive impact
on these people because you've had a massive impact on me, Nate, my co-host for sure, and the people that listen that know you. But it's a weird mix of audience we have where I talk about you sometimes and young men don't know who you are. And I'm like, how's that possible? This makes no sense to me. So welcome to the show, man. Again, can't tell you how grateful I am that you would take time out of your, I can't even imagine how busy schedule, and sit with us in the passenger seat of the Waste No Day audience.
All good, man. Glad to be here. I know you work with a lot of people that are out there working every day. They're probably listening on their headphones. So glad to join the crew here.
Yep. We say our guests are in the passenger seat because most of our audience is field service techs listening, driving between calls. So welcome to the passenger seat.
Right on. Perfect.
Well, as Brian mentioned, Jocko, it's hard to imagine people don't know who you are, but I'm sure you have your 30-second elevator speech dialed in by now. Could you give us a little bit of background or history as to who you are?
I'm just kind of a regular guy. I joined the military when I was right out of high school. I spent 20 years in the military. And then when I retired from the military, I started working with companies, teaching leadership and that kind of thing. And eventually started a podcast and wrote some books and started a couple companies along the way. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
That's amazing. And obviously you're the author of multiple books, one of which was very impactful to me was Extreme Ownership. Read through that one, read it with my team. We talked about it as a book club and really dove into the aspects of what that means. And I just loved how you use your analogies from battle and commanding and everything to tie back into business principles and leadership principles. And really anything that has to do with leadership and ownership was impactful to me and my team.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that book landed pretty well with a lot of people. So even though it's a pretty fundamental principle that you probably learned in second grade from your teacher, which was you're responsible for your actions and you have to pay the price for the outcomes of the actions that you take. So
it feels, maybe to you, it feels like that fundamental, but it's like, I mean, every time I go back, well, here's the biggest place I'll use it as a leader, the extreme ownership concept or principles. Like when I start feeling like, man, the guys, roll of the eyes. Oh, the freaking guys, man. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. They just won't do it. You know, they're rebellious. They're Gen Z or millennials. They're just, you know, they push back on everything. They're lazy because they're this generation. And it's always like, oh, wait a minute. Extreme ownership would say, me. It starts here. Like it starts at the head. So if it's not happening, it is the leader. And then we have to work our way down from there. That's not really fundamental. I don't remember a whole lot of my teachers talking like that.
yeah, well, you're right in the fact that, again, I think that this is a lesson that people try and teach, but I think you're right in the fact that everyone's instinct is to not take ownership and to blame other people and other things when things aren't going the way they want them to go. And I think a good example I always talk about with this is, you know, if you got kids and you walk into the kitchen and there's milk spilled on the counter and you look at your son, you say, what happened? Your son will say, the milk spilled, right? Blame him because the milk spilled. And so we definitely have that instinct as human beings to want to blame, you know, something else, someone else. And in fact, when you do that, you don't change and you don't make any adjustments and you don't get any better and you end up being stuck in the same place. Whereas if you take ownership, you can actually have control over what's happening. You can make changes. You can make things better.
Absolutely. And it's something that I'm curious to ask you and starting off here, kind of jumping right into, but you know, you've served in the military, you've been in leadership, you've been doing your own thing for some time. You've seen different generations come through. In course, you know, of all that experience and where you started to where you are today, have you noticed any type of evolution or devolution in what it means to be a man?
You know, I hear things about this kind of stuff, but look, I travel around the country. I work with construction companies. I work with power companies. I work with military units. I work with special operations units. And in every one of those categories, there's a bunch of really hardworking, tough men that are getting the job done. So I guess I hear about it. Maybe if you go hang around with a different group of people, you might find some men that are weak and pathetic. But I hang around with a bunch of guys that are pretty tough, awesome humans. So I'm really not bought into that thing.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is
who keeps the power up, right? When a big storm rolls through New England or the Midwest, a big storm comes through and rips the power lines down. Like, who fixes those things?
Right.
I'll tell you,
Boomers.
yeah, it's like tough guys to get up there and make it happen. And so,
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about is the transcendence of what it means to be a man goes beyond age, goes beyond the things, even the cultural aspect of what's going on today. There will always be people who choose to do what is needed to be done in the moment. Across all of history, you can study the people who've chosen to do that. And, you don't really understand, like when you look back upon the knights of old or, the people in the BC or whatever, like you don't understand what the culture was and what people were saying back then and there because it's never contextualized in the story. All you know is that somebody did something that was worthwhile and was mentionable and was going to live into history. And that still is available for us today, no matter what the culture says is going on.
yeah, I would agree with that. People step up and get things done. There's no doubt about it. Otherwise, like I said, when you flip your light switch, the lights wouldn't come on. When it rains, the water would seep into your house. Like, we make things happen.
Absolutely. And you're very big on discipline, obviously military background, and you've continued that into what you're doing today. I believe you're very famous for posting, the picture of what time you wake up and kind of drilling into that and like making that a part of who you are. And I was thinking about that today, certainly discipline has ebbed and flowed across things. When you look at the people that you're coaching and all those types of things, do you see more people who are inherently disciplined, or do you see people who have developed the characteristic of discipline and applied it into their life? I'm sure you see both, but like, which one do you see as to be most prevalent right now?
I think there's both. And I think it's, some people are 10% naturally disciplined and 90% because they want it to be that way. Some people are 90% because they want it to be that way and 10% disciplined. Some people are 90% just like that's how they were born. So I think it's just the decisions that you make on a daily basis is more important than, whatever you were born with.
What about you, Jocko? Like, which one are you? Are you naturally disciplined and you just had to apply the extra 10%, or did you have to work to become who you are?
I think that I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I think that I had to work hard to get things done in my life. I wasn't very naturally gifted at anything. So in order to be successful in anything, I had to work probably harder than most people had to work. And so if you have to work regularly for decades harder than the other person sitting next to you, you might appear to be more disciplined than them. But I think it's just a decision that people make. I think for me, I make the decision every day. I'm going to try and do a little bit better.
Yes, and that's sort of the same mantra we carry here about wasting no day. So you're choosing to wake up and make sure that you're making the most out today. And yet what comes with that, at least in my experience, is a degree of, man, some days you just don't feel like it. I know you'd be, anti-feeling, like in terms of like, you got to shut that down. You got to keep pressing forward. But like, do you ever get tired? And then how do you overcome that? Like, do you ever not want to get up?
Yeah. Do I ever get tired? Yes. Does it matter? No. Do I ever not want to get up? Yes. Does it matter? No. Yeah. I would say in the military, you're going to do things. You're just going to do things. Like, it does not matter if you feel like doing this thing or not. It literally pays no bearing to the outcome of the situation, how you feel. You are going to get up and you're going to start walking. You're going to start marching. You're going to start doing what you have to do. And there's just the mentality that you have. And I think that's the way life is. I don't care how I feel. Really, it actually has zero impact on what I'm going to do.
It's a great message to especially the younger technicians and service techs. And there is a thing where if I go to a new company or I hire a bunch of people, the youngest people always struggle the most. Now, if they're military guys, then you don't get this at all. But if they're 19, 20 years old, graduated high school, and then maybe went to trade school half a day or spent 2 years on mom's couch playing video games, you have a significant amount of lack of discipline just in terms of like getting here before the meeting starts, getting here at 7 a.m. as opposed to 7:06. And you do not have this with the techs, men and women who have been in the trades for years or occasionally, but not nearly as badly. And do you have a message to those young people, for one? And two, I know there are managers and owners listening like myself who are like, okay, yeah, I get the principle. How do I instill it to the 19-year-olds I'm bringing in as apprentices and warehouse techs and part runners? Like, how do I get these men and women to show up on time ready to go, like fully dressed in uniform, not with their shirts untucked and boots untied and stuff like that. Do you have anything to say to them as well? Like, how are you taking a team of people like that and getting them, helping them become disciplined?
Yeah. So first of all, you got a 19-year-old. What kind of relationship do I have with that 19-year-old? How well do I know them? How well have I explained to them? And how well do I understand what it is that they want out of their life? Because a 19-year-old may not even understand that what they're doing today is connected to where they're going to be in 5 years and in 10 years. And until they make that connection, they don't really change their behavior because they have no reason to get there 7 minutes early. They're going to keep the job. They show up 6 minutes late. It's not a big deal to them. They don't understand how that reflects on them. No one's really explained it to them. And so they don't show up on time. Also, a 19-year-old, guess what they're responsible for? They're not responsible for anything. They don't have any kids. They don't have a wife or, at home that they've got to feed. So they have no responsibility other than themselves. And they've already figured that they can kind of get by. So it doesn't really matter to them. And they don't have a good grasp on their future. And whose fault is it that they don't have a good grasp on all this stuff? Well, it's my fault. If I'm in charge of them and I haven't set them down and said, like, hey, what are your expectations in your life? What do you want to do? Do you want to be doing this exact same job for the rest of your life? Do you want to be doing this exact same job for 30 years? Do you want to keep getting the same pay for the next 30 years? Or do you want more responsibility? Do you want more opportunity? Do you want to lead a team instead of just being on a team? Do you want to be able to afford this truck like I've got over here? Or do you want to keep driving that old beater that you've got? What do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to be? And most likely they're going to say, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a nicer truck. Yeah, I wouldn't mind actually saving up for a down payment on my own house instead of paying rent to somebody else and paying someone else's mortgage. That makes sense to me. So just explaining things to people and letting them understand, helping them understand why that hard work pays off. There's nothing better than when someone tells me they don't want to work hard. If someone doesn't want to work hard, okay, then work hard right now. So in the future, you don't have to work hard. It's the same thing when people talk to me about training jujitsu and they say, well, I don't like to fight. Cool. If you don't like to fight, then you better know how to fight, even more than the person that likes to fight. So just building relationships with these people on your team and making sure that they understand what they do today impacts next month, next year, 5 years, and the rest of their life. That's I think the most important thing that we can do.
That's actually a great transition into a question I had for later that we get to, but it's perfect timing. So the trades, the home services, but really the skilled trades are pretty notoriously unhealthy. We have the residential side probably even more than any other because it's just a lot of driving. It's maybe you're under a sink, maybe you're in an attic for an hour and then you're driving twice that long. And it becomes very sedentary, very stressful. And oftentimes we just develop, as I was a plumber myself before I got into leadership, but we develop these habits where it's pain all day. It's emotional pain and physical pain, and you're just getting beat up all day. And for whatever reason, the path of least resistance is to reward all that pain with the pleasure of horribly sugared, Mountain Dew or whatever, and then sugary snacks and crap. And we get severely overweight. Even if we're not super overweight, we're not very healthy at all. We don't sleep great. We don't tend to train largely. And I think there has been a shift in that a lot thanks to guys like yourself and Joe Rogan and other people that we're starting to listen to. And we've brought on people like yourself and JP Donnell and Carlos Mendez and Tim Kennedy and these guys because we want to promote this lifestyle like Nate and I work out and want to share it with the audience and certainly the techs who work with us. How are you, right along the lines of what you were just saying, how are we talking to them, especially on a global level, not just the people in our own shops, but in a way that makes them understand how important it is, not like maybe someday, but when this podcast ends or when they finish their workday today, to start taking their fitness and their health seriously?
Yeah, it's a very similar conversation to the one that we just had about showing up on time and having your gear ready and being professional at work. Oh, where does that put you over the long term? And let's face it, you guys know this. If you're a hardworking 19-year-old and you show up 5 minutes early for work and you're in a squared away uniform and your boots are ready and your axe blade is sharp, you're going to get follow-on jobs. You're going to get put in charge of things. Like, you are going to excel in life if you can do those fundamental things correctly. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but over time, you'll end up in a great spot. Well, it's the same thing with your health. It's the little things that you do on a daily basis. And if you do the right things on a daily basis, you're going to look up in 10 years. And instead of being a guy that can barely get up the stairs, you'll be a guy that can bound up the stairs, get up there, get the job done, get it done rapidly, get done with that job, go to another job, feel healthy, climb the ladder, hang off the roof, get underneath the crawl space. You're going to be able to do all those things effectively because you're healthy. And then, by the way, when you get home, you'll be able to hang out with your kids and throw a baseball and wrestle with your son. And you're going to be able to do things that you should be able to do based on and you said this, the habits that you form, the daily habits that you form. If your daily habits are crappy food and no mobility and not moving and not working out, you're going to look up in 10 years, you're not going to like where you end up. But we have to explain that to these younger generation because it's hard for them to make that connection. And by the way, there's the older generation, they didn't make that connection either. That's my father's generation, they didn't really work out. They just did work. And they didn't end up in the best shape. That's the way it is. But what's cool today is we don't have to accept that anymore. You can be 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 years old, 60 years old, and still be a stud. But you have to make the right choices and form the right habits on a daily basis. Otherwise, you're going to end up just like everybody else, which is out of shape and kind of pathetic.
So, Jocko, along those same lines, so much of what the world is doing today is about that instant gratification. You have next day shipping. You have a phone in your pocket that can give you an answer to any single question that you could possibly think of. Some people have there's even advanced payroll. You don't have to wait till Friday anymore. You can get paid on Wednesday. All these things are pushing us to a place of instant gratification. But so many of the things that you just talked about right there are more about delayed gratification, meaning that you have to put in the work now. You have to wait. You have to have patience. You have to develop. You have to mature into things so that you can enjoy them later in life, and they will be sweeter and more long lasting because of it. But how do we wage against the culture and everything that's going on right now that is basically just training people up that if you can't have it right now, it's not worth pursuing? How do we come against that and teach it in different ways so that people can understand that delayed gratification is actually good?
Yeah, again, this is everything that you guys are talking about. You cannot do this unless you develop relationships with the people around you, right? I can't just expect to show up as a foreman on a job site and be able to convey really significant life information to a guy that just met me that showed up there to make, his $22 an hour or his $17 an hour as a laborer. How am I going to influence that guy? He's getting influenced by the rest of the world. I'm one guy that showed up. I'm the quote unquote boss. He's going to do what I say because I just told him to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to not pay him or I'm going to fire him. So that's the only reason he's listening to me. Unless I actually develop a relationship with this person, I can't expect to have much influence over that individual or any individual. So for me, if you really want to have an impact on people, you need to develop good relationships with people. And then very simple next question is, what does that mean? What does it mean to build a relationship with someone? Well, I've broken it down recently into what a relationship actually is. And for me, there's 5 components of relationship. And it's trust, listen, respect, influence, and care. Trust, listen, respect, influence, and care. So, Nate, if I don't trust you and you don't trust me, obviously we don't have a relationship, right?
Correct.
If you don't listen to me and I don't listen to you, we don't have a relationship. If I don't treat you with respect and you don't treat me with respect, we don't have a relationship. If you have no influence over me and I have no influence over you, we don't have a relationship. And if I don't care about you and you don't care about me, we don't have a relationship. So in order to have a relationship, we've got to have those things in the relationship: trust, listen, respect, influence, and care. So then the question becomes, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I get you to trust me? Well, I have to give you some trust. And how do I get you to listen to me? I've got to listen to what you have to say. And how do I get you to respect me? I've got to treat you with respect. And how do I have influence over you? I've got to allow you to influence me. And how do I get you to care about me? I've got to make sure that I show you that I care about you. So that is how we build a relationship with someone. And that means we as leaders can't just go bark out orders and say, you kids are lazy these days and you eat crappy foods, you suck. No one's going to listen to that. I mean, think about even yourselves. If I was a foreman, showed up and started yelling and screaming, do you listen to me less or more, or do you listen to me more? Do you want to work hard for me? If I show up and I'm like, Brian, you don't know what the hell you're doing. What's your problem? You don't know how to do this. And that's how I treat you. Do you want to do a good job for me? Do you want to learn from me? What if I show up and I say, hey, Brian, we're going to do this. We're doing this soldering today on this type of pipe. I've never done it before, or I've only done it a few times. You might not have done this before. Let me show you how to do this so you have this in your toolbox for the future. What's your attitude then? All of a sudden you're going, oh, this guy actually wants to teach me something. He wants to show me something that's beneficial to you, Brian. Not that's beneficial to me. It's going to help you. So this is the type of attitude we need to take. We need to listen when Brian shows up and he says, when I say, hey, how was your weekend? And you say, oh, it was not bad. And I say, well, what'd you do? Well, I went out drinking on Friday night and I went out drinking on Saturday night, went to the bar, got liquored up. And I say, okay, dang, dude. I mean, what's fun about that? And I actually listen to what you have. Well, it's a time for me to go out. There's also girls at this one bar. It's fun to, chat. Okay, cool. So I'm listening to you. I'm actually learning about what's going on in your life and what's going on in your world. If I then say that's stupid and you're stupid for doing that and living your life that way, you're not going to listen to a darn thing I say. But if I say, oh yeah, you know what? When I was younger, I used to go to that same bar. That's a pretty good little spot. Yeah, you can have a good time down there. That's a good spot. That's there could definitely be some good time. I've gotten in trouble there too. You ever gotten in trouble there? And all of a sudden we're having a conversation. And all of a sudden I'm listening to what you have to say, which means that you're going to listen to me a little bit more. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. We're sitting here complaining about wanting instant gratification. And then guess what I want? I want the instant gratification that when I tell Nate, hey, you should live your life different, Nate should just turn 180. I'm over here wanting that instant gratification instead of me making investment as a leader, as a friend, and as a mentor, and as a coach, and as a boss, and as another human being to say, Nate, what's going on, man? I notice you're like hungover every Monday. What are you spending your money on, man? And all of a sudden he tells me, well, I drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh, okay. Well, how much money are you spending? Well, I spend $200-300 a night. Jeez, how much you saving every month? Well, I really don't save anything, but I have a good time. That's cool. Yeah, I had a good time when I was 20 as well. That's cool. Where do you live? Well, I live in this apartment. Oh, how's the apartment? It's not bad. You like having, someone living next to you on both sides? You like that? No. Oh, I didn't like that either. You know what you should be doing with that money? You should probably drink once a weekend instead of 3 times a weekend and save yourself $500. Oh yeah, because guess what? In a year, maybe year and a half, you'll have enough money to put a little down payment on something. You ever think about that? No, not really. That's what I did. I got real lucky. This old guy told me I should buy a house. Tell me stop wasting my money. I listened to him. Now I got 7 houses. It's a pretty good deal. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really important that we aim these complaints that we have about the world. We look at ourselves and see the mistakes that we're making, and we try and correct ourselves. And if we do that and we set a good example, build good relationships with people, you'll have way more impact over the team.
That was a great point with we Gen Xers or maybe, I think you're a Gen Xer too, right, Jocko? Gen Xers, boomers.
I'm a hardcore Gen X guy. I think I'm right. I forget what the years are, but I was born in 1971. So okay. I'm like full Gen X.
Yeah. And I'm actually Nate's a millennial, I believe, unfortunately. But we and boomers love to talk trash about the Gen Z and millennials and Gen A, the new generation, about loving the instant gratification. But you just hit the nail on the head. Like, I like it as much as they do. I just want the instant gratification of, I had one conversation with you as one of my team members, and I want that to pay dividends for the next 5 years. And you should consider me your friend now forever and just listen to everything I say.
Can't you just tell immediately how much I care about you and how smart I am? Why don't you accept that?
Well, okay, so kind of building off of that, Jocko, another question or another experience that I've seen, not only in people that I've spoken to, but in seeing other people try to mentor others, is getting yes to death. Like, you're investing in the conversation, you're having some of these deeper, like, what's going on, man? Like, yeah, I want more for you. Like, I think you have more. And like, there's so much more that you could offer and could grow in. And what if you would do this and try this? And, oh yeah, that would be really great. That's exactly what I'd like to do. That's what I'm going to go do. And, maybe they go out and do something different for like a day, and then it kind of fades off. And then 2 weeks later, the exact same person. And you bring them in again, like, hey, like, what's going on, man? Like, I shouldn't have to put my boot up your rear every 3 weeks to get you to like go somewhere. Like, what's happening here? Oh yeah. I'm definitely gonna do that. And like the same thing happens again. I'm sure you've seen people like that, and I've even seen it myself. Like, I'm gonna eat better. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna be more disciplined. And you catch that wave, and then you fall off, and before you know it, you're worse than you were before you started. What is that going on inside of us, and how do we address it?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different things to talk about with that issue. The first thing I'll say is when I've got someone that's not kind of stepping up and doing what I need him to do from a work perspective, is I'm going to probably put them into some kind of leadership position. So if I've got you, Nate, and I'm like, dude, you really need to step up, and dig ditches faster. And for a few days, you're going to dig ditches faster. And then you're going to realize that, like, I've been digging ditches for another week and it hasn't helped me to dig any faster. Whereas if I say, hey, man, we got a new job. It's, this neighborhood. Can you go over there tomorrow, get everything set up? I can't make it, and get the job started. Now, listen, you've already been working with me for a while, Nate, so I have built some kind of trust with you. I trust that you're not a knucklehead, but I'm actually going to give you an assignment or maybe I say, hey, listen, I can't get there in the morning. I got to go, an inspector coming to another job site. Can you go there, get that job started? Let me know how it's going. I'll be there around lunchtime. And all of a sudden, I'm putting a little trust in you and confidence in you that you're going to step up and you're going to make things happen. And sure enough, in most cases, when we give people some increased level of responsibility, they rise to that level of responsibility. If we don't change the way we're interacting with them, and we don't change their position, or not even their position, but we don't change our expectations of them, they're not going to change. And this is a classic. I don't know if you got kids, Nate?
I do. 4.
How old are they?
11, 9, 6, and 5.
Your kids, even at 5 years old, between those ages of 5 and 11, those kids are capable of basically, once they're like 11 years old, they could basically run your entire household for you. All of it.
You want to tell them
exactly.
that?
Yeah. You laugh, but like, as you know, you go out to the farm country out in Iowa, and there's a 10-year-old kid that's out there driving a tractor 9 hours a day, and he's keeping it on the GPS track, and then he's getting everything bundled up at the end of the day. Like, this is what kids are capable of. We lower our expectations of our kids, and we lower their capabilities. And we do the exact same things with our employees. We lower the expectations of our employees. We keep them doing things. We baby them. We show up and make sure that they're doing everything correctly. And when we lower expectations, we lower their capabilities. So that's part one. Make sure if you want people to do more, you have to raise the expectations. You have to take risks sometimes, Nate. Sometimes you got to be like, yeah, I'm going to get let down occasionally. Occasionally your kid is going to do something with the house. You're like, they're going to do something stupid. They're going to make dinner, and they're going to put, a cup of salt into the recipe instead of a cup of sugar. And the food is going to taste terrible. And that's okay. It's okay. It's no big deal. It'll be a lesson learned. No one got killed. And of course, we don't let our kids go so far outside the guardrails that they can get hurt or killed. Just like we don't let our employees go so far out the guardrails that they ruin a job for us, or they really hurt a client relationship for us. We don't let them do that, but we have to raise the expectations so that they can raise their performance. That's part number one. Part number two in this dilemma that you're talking about is just people lying to themselves. It's people lying to themselves. And the way that they lie to themselves, Nate, is you're talking about how sometimes you go, oh, I'm going to eat healthier. And you tell yourself, I'm going to eat healthier because I don't feel I'm as in good shape as I should be right now. And there's either two lies that are happening. Either you're lying to yourself in saying that I wish I could be in better shape. Either that's a lie, or you lie to yourself when you pick up that donut and you say, you know what, I'm in good enough shape. So one of those two things are a lie. I can pretty much guarantee it's the second one, because no one is walking around thinking, oh yeah, I'm in the perfect shape. I'm as good shape as I want to be. There's very few people that are walking around thinking that. Just about everyone is saying, oh, you know what? This donut really won't matter. I'm probably in pretty good enough shape. Look, I'm 36 years old. I'm in better shape than most 36 years old people. Those are all just lies that you're telling yourself. So if you're lying to yourself, you're going to, and someone's lying to themselves, they have no problem lying to you because they believe the lie. So when they say, yeah, I'm going to show up on time, or I'm going to start working harder, they're lying to themselves and they're going to lie to you too. And what we have to do as leaders in that situation, same thing we have to do with ourselves, is ask the earnest questions and pull the thread so that the truth can be revealed to them from themselves, not from you, but from themselves. What is the truth? Where do you want to be? Are you who you want to be? Are you headed in the right trajectory that you want your life to be on? Because if you're not headed on the right trajectory, no one is going to change it for you. You have to change it to yourself. You have to take ownership yourself and get where you want to be. But most people are very proficient at lying to themselves. I'm making enough money. I'm in good enough shape. I'm saving enough money. I really don't want the hassle of owning a house. I really don't want to have to baby a new car. I really don't want to have to spend a bunch of money on good food because I'm happy just eating the junk stuff and it works just fine. I'd rather save my money for something else like beer on a Friday night. So people are very proficient at lying to themselves, and that's the root of these problems that you're talking about.
I so appreciate that.
I'd be remiss if we didn't, with the time we have left, if we didn't, because we do so much sales and sales training and communication and negotiation on this show. And if we didn't go down that road, I'll be upset with myself. Before we do, this just popped into my head and I actually don't know the answer. I know what time you wake up because I'm on Instagram, but what does a typical Jocko Willink day look like?
Unfortunately, I really don't have any typical days because I do a lot of different things. But that being said, there is a standard day that I almost do not deviate from ever. There are certain parameters in my day. Like, for instance, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to work out. That's going to happen. That's going to happen regardless of what is, just about regardless of anything else that's happening in the world. Look, can I have a flight that's at 6 o'clock in the morning that I got to be at the airport at 4:45, that I'm going to go to bed at 11 o'clock and now I'm going to get 3 hours of sleep and that's not going to make any sense? No. There's times where it's like, yeah, guess what? I'm going to have a day of rest tomorrow because I got to be at the airport at 6 o'clock. No big deal. But generally speaking, I wake up early. I wake up pretty much the same time every day, right around 4:30 in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth and I go freaking work out. And I do that every day. Once that's in the bank, the rest of the day doesn't even really matter. What am I doing? I'm writing, I'm talking to clients, I'm traveling, I'm speaking, I'm recording podcasts, I'm preparing for podcasts, I'm reading books, I'm writing books. Like, that's what I'm doing every day. I'm calling clients, I'm interacting with clients. That's what I do. And those days are just days. Generally speaking, there's a bunch of other things that I like to do, but the main thing that I do every day is I wake up, work out. I try and train jujitsu every day if I can. If there's good waves, I go surfing. These are things that I try and do in my life, but the day-to-day kind of non-negotiables are wake up early, workout.
Awesome. Love that day. So let's talk quick pivot to communication and negotiation and that kind of thing. And we're kind of renowned for when we get people on the show who train in that, we get them to role play, usually surprise them with it, which we've had Chris Voss do it. And he, of course, absolutely crushed it as an HVAC tech. And we're not going to do that with you because you don't do in-home sales for a living or train it. But I got a copy of thank you for giving me that autographed book when we met a couple months ago. And you wrote one word in that book. You wrote detach. And you spoke on detaching in leadership in that talk at the Freedom event. And I loved it. It was a great talk. But one thing I was thinking of is this would be really pertinent to salespeople. Detaching in that sales process when you're dealing with, because what we deal with is really tough objections, often highly emotional people. I mean, we're showing up not just to a water heater, blew water all over their house, but very likely at times you will see throughout your career, you put it in 3 weeks ago and you messed up and it's blowing water all over their home. This kind of emotion. How are you training these types of people to detach and still be able to, quote unquote, get the sale, still be able to achieve the mission?
Well, the thing that you just described, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read that book yet, but there's a chapter in that book, or a section in that book, it's called Reflect and Diminish. And the reason that I wrote about that tactic of reflect and diminish is exactly what you were just talking about, Brian. Here's the wrong thing to do. So if I show up, Brian, and you are really mad about something, and I am totally detached and I say, hey, Brian, you just need to calm down. Your anger isn't going to help solve the situation. What is going to happen? What's your
Get
reaction?
angrier.
You're going to get more angry, and possibly even worse than that. You now think that I am not on your side. You think that I'm the enemy because you're mad and I'm telling you to calm down. I don't understand where you're coming from. I don't understand your emotions. I don't understand the situations. I am the enemy. Whereas if I use this technique of reflect and diminish. So the first part is reflect, like you're mad. So I'm going to reflect some of that anger, but I don't want to escalate the anger. I want to diminish the anger. So when you say, I can't believe this happened, this water heater just got installed and now it's flooding all over the floor. And I say, oh, that's ridiculous. I can't believe it. How long has it been leaking for? Boom. All of a sudden, I showed you that I'm on your side. I'm also frustrated. I can't believe it happened. And now I'm actually taking one step towards figuring out a solution because I'm going to start going through the checklist in my head. Well, how long did it start to take leaking? How long did it start to take leaking?
Well, let's real quick.
Yeah.
Let's just so at one point somewhere in my life, I'm going to say we got Jocko Willink to role play on the Waste No Day podcast.
I guess I just did it, right?
Yeah. So I'll be the client. So, hey, appreciate you coming over, Jocko, but you just put this HVAC system in 3 weeks ago. You put it in yourself and you told me it was good to go, high quality machine, cost me a fortune. Here we are, middle of summer, Arizona, baking hot, and it took you 2 days to get here.
Totally ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I got here right now. I want to get up there. I'm embarrassed that this even happened. I'm curious myself to find out what I did wrong. Obviously, I made some kind of mistake. I'm going to get up there right now. I'm going to get to work on it. I actually have another one of my technicians coming over here just in case it's something we haven't seen before. This is a problem and I'm going to get it fixed. That's what I'm here to do.
Awesome. Are you apologizing?
100%. Yeah, this is on me. Listen, even if there's something wrong with that piece of equipment, I'm the one that installed it. I should have caught it. I should have done a better test. I ran through my standard tests. Obviously it passed or I wouldn't have left, but I must have missed something. And that's why I'm here. This is on me and I'm going to get it fixed.
Don't even think that I'm going to be paying you for anything today, Jocko, because that's not happening.
No, in fact, I've already talked to my boss and the labor that we charge you for this, I'm already trying to get that refunded. So this is problematic. I get it. And this should not have happened. And that's why I'm here to get this problem fixed.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't even pretend to feel the anger anymore. It's just deflated. Yeah, great way to come back there.
Yeah, some people like, oh, now you're doing that work for free, right? Because I just told you I was going to give you back the labor. And I am. And let me tell you why. Because Brian, if I say, hey, you know what? That's just the way it goes. And I am actually going to have to charge you to be out here to fix this. You are going to be so pissed off. You're going to call every person you know, tell them, give them my company's number. You're going to write a bad Yelp review. And I'm going to lose more money from treating you this way than I would have lost if I would have done the entire job for free. And depending on the finances, I might even say, hey, we're refunding the labor for this whole thing. And we're going to give you the air conditioner? We're going to give you that air conditioner at cost. This is on us. We're going to get it fixed. That's going to turn you from an enemy into like, wow, these guys really stand behind what they said. And now when someone calls up and says, hey, I noticed you got new AC in your house. How was it? And you go, you know what? This guy Jocko came over and his company, Jocko Plumbing, they came over and put that thing in. And at first I was a little pissed because it had a problem, but they came over 2 days later, fixed the whole thing. They gave me my money back. Like, I can't recommend those people enough. Boom. We're already good to go. And this goes back to the entire topic that we've been having, or this entire discussion, thinking about the long-term reward instead of the short-term reward. Me going, oh, well, I can put some more money in my pocket because you got to call me to repair this thing. That's short-term money. And the long-term money, I'm going to be a long-term loser for creating bad reputation and treating clients poorly. And that's just bad across the board.
So you're even going a step further than not trying to make money off this, but you are offering to give some money back before they even ask for it, which obviously, imagine the way that makes you feel as the homeowner. Is like, before I even said I want money refunded, you're going, I just had a conversation with my manager and we are going to give you some of this money back.
Yep, absolutely.
Appreciate that, Jocko, and it really resonates with the rest of the message we've been talking about here. We would be remiss if we didn't give you the opportunity to have people find you on your social media channels and books and everything else. Where are good places to get connected with you and your message?
Oh yeah, I mean, just normal places. I'm on in social media at Jocko Willink. My books are available wherever you buy books. My supplements are available kind of wherever you shop. And
Milk.
yeah, we got protein. So jockofuel.com, and then American Made Clothing, originusa.com. That's what we're doing.
I want to say probably one of the biggest questions I get asked, besides where's some good presentation communication training, is leadership training by owners and managers. I say it all the time, probably don't say it enough on this show, but Echelon Front, I don't believe there's anything even close. And Nate, you can attest to the fact that I'm not just saying this because Jocko's on. I say it often. It's a complete game changer. It's different than any other leadership training I've ever seen, and I've taken dozens and dozens of them. Also, quick shout out, make sure you ask for Carlos Mendez in that.
Yeah.
Love lows.
Yeah, the Echelon Front, this is our leadership consulting company. We train leaders, and a lot of people don't even understand that leadership is a skill. Just like being a plumber, like there are skills that you need to learn. And the more you practice those skills, the better you get at them. But there's some people that think they can just take two pieces of pipe and put them together and no water's going to leak out, right? That's what they think of leadership. They think leadership is just something you should know how to do. Well, you don't just know how to do leadership. You have to learn it. And that's what we teach at Echelon Front. And yes, Carlos is an incredible instructor, great guy.
Yeah, and we do this often in these home services. He's my best plumber. I'm making him the manager. He or she's my best salesperson. I'm making him or her the sales manager. And yes, they can plumb. Yes, they can sail. Can they not only teach that, but lead a team and build you a team? No, they cannot. It's not a natural thing. But something like Echelon Front, man, would save so much time in the amount of time it took for me and Nate personally to become leaders. It was trial and error and hurt people and lost good people and made huge, stupid mistakes. And I believe that Echelon Front is one of those few organizations that can fast forward the time it takes to make a great leader without actually losing all that time.
Yeah, losing all that time and money. It's a very light investment up front compared to what it costs to have your entire business turn into a big disaster because your leaders are not doing what they should be doing.
Yep. Awesome.
All right.
Well, this has been amazing, Jocko. We really appreciate you being on, not only here, but the message that you continually preach on all your channels. You're an inspiration to many of us, and we thank you for that.
Right on. Well, thanks to everybody that's listening right now, and thanks for being out there working hard, keeping America strong, and literally building the infrastructure and the economy of our great country. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to see you again, Jocko.
Good seeing you all. Appreciate it.